My interpersonal communication project. Slide 1 is the introduction. People communicate in many different ways. Interpersonal communication is a subset of communication. Interpersonal communication includes collaboration, choices, culture, identities, conversation, and nexting. Conversation is really important form of interpersonal communication because we use it all the time. Moving on to slide 2, overarching goal, also known as master goal. My personal overarching goal for my life is to be able to not think or analyze too much when talking to people. When I'm around people that I don't know, oftentimes I do a lot of excessive thinking to try to figure out what they're thinking or what I should say next or how I should act. And I would also like to be able to be engaged in the conversation and not busy with my own personal thoughts. Moving on to slide 4, enlarging the conversation. Enlarging the conversation is when we use our behavior and communication patterns to improve our communication with others. For instance, if we have poor communication, we should research, study, and learn our personality and then alter our communication pattern to better fit who we are. Also, for example, rather than analyzing or thinking too much when talking to others, I should just flow with the conversation and not worry about my thoughts since I know that I have a tendency to do so. Moving on to slide 5, behavior blend. My personal behavior blend is the SC type. In this personality type, the S stands for reserved and passive people oriented, and the C stands for passive task oriented. And in this particular personality type, others see me as overly passive as opposed to being active and extroverted. They also don't feel to be threatened by me other than when they mess with my family or security or when they try to misrepresent the facts. Moving on to slide 6, behavior blend also. For the strengths and uniqueness of this personality trait, my strengths are basically that I'm a peacemaker through knowledge. Also, I sometimes let people take advantage of me, or I research too much and take too long to decide. The overuses and abuses of this particular personality type is I suffer from the paralysis of analysis, and I often just take too long to make decisions, and I get caught up in the decision process. Moving on to slide 7, behavior blend. Also, some of the guard against and warnings of this type is that I think people want me to be sure before I change the course or challenge the status quo. I tend to be very protective because I don't like any trouble. This sometimes causes me to back off when I should just become stronger. Moving on to slide 8, behavior. How this slide deals with the way that behavior blend influences my conversation, both negatively and positively. For the positive side, my personality type does not have to be the center of attention. So many people may feel like I'm easier to talk to than others. They may not feel like they have to compete when talking to me. Also, of course, I'm the peacemaker, and so people feel like they won't have to deal with any trouble when they talk to me. Furthermore, people do not feel threatened by me, so I seem to be more approachable, more so than other people. And on the negative side, my passiveness keeps me from expressing who I truly am when talking to people, and I overthink my decisions, which makes people impatient for me to feel comfortable in the conversation. And also, I can be too protective in my conversations with other, not wanting to reveal too much information or information that's too personal. And moving on to the next slide, potential barriers. One potential barrier may be that I cannot overcome my anxiety of thinking too much about what the other person is thinking. Another barrier could be that I may not fully listen to the person that I am speaking with. Also, I get discouraged from one negative conversation and become hesitant about every subsequent conversation after that. Also, I may not know how to talk to someone who I do not understand and may spend too much time mentally trying to break down possible hidden meanings of the conversation, that those things that weren't necessarily said but had like a hidden meaning. Moving on to the next slide, noise pollution, the internal and external factors that play into that. Some of the internal factors are that they are three different levels of listening. And my particular level that I identified with is when I tune in and out, being somewhat aware of others, but mainly paying attention to myself. And I basically only follow along with the conversation just to keep up when it's my turn to talk. And I also, people that listen at this level tend to fake paying attention when they're really just thinking about their own personal thoughts, not necessarily paying attention to the conversation. And to fix this particular problem, I should become a level 1 listener and become a more empathetic listener, actually putting myself in that person's shoes so that I understand and I can engage with what they're talking about. And on the external side, talking to someone who may be angry can be difficult, and I may not know how to approach that, but I can just try and calm the talker down and maybe approach them that way after they've calmed down. Also, talking to someone who is crying or emotionally unstable can be difficult because I may not know what to say or how to act, or I may not want to say the wrong thing. Also, to fix that, I should just try to be more understanding and patient and just continue listening until I feel like they have calmed down and reached a point where they can continue the conversation. And I may talk to someone who is not interested in talking to me, which will make me feel really bad because no one likes to be rejected, but I have to commit to the idea of talking through that and taking that risk. Moving on to the next slide, my plan of action. Mindfulness has been defined as a state of mind in which one focuses on experience in the present moment in a non-judgmental way. I will learn to be more mindful and focus on experience in the present moment in a non-judgmental way. Also, self-management is accomplished through use of interaction and behavior strategies whereby people signal to others how they want to be treated. I will improve my self-management by being more open about what makes me comfortable and what makes me uncomfortable, so that people will be aware of what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, and I can be open about the particular way that I communicate. Moving on to the next slide, also plan of action. I plan to stop thinking so much when talking to people so that I may listen more effectively. I also plan to become more assertive and not be so laid back. I will become an extrovert when the situation calls for it because all situations cannot be handled by an introvert.